The night began with champagne flutes clinking beneath warm lights, with laughter rising toward the carved ceiling of my sister's apartment in Lyon. Outside, the Rhône moved dark and patient through the city, reflecting the glow of street lamps and the early frost of December. It was meant to be a celebration. My 40th birthday, postponed twice because of work, children, life. Friends, family, colleagues packed into the space, coats draped over chairs, voices layered in French and Italian, and the soft accents of people who had lived here long enough to belong, but never fully blend. Mark stood beside me when the first guests arrived. My husband of 15 years, impeccably dressed as always, salt beginning to show at his temples. He kissed my cheek, poured wine, smiled. To anyone watching, we were solid, resilient, one of those couples who had weathered storms and come out polished. At 9:17 p.m., without a word, he picked up his coat and left. I noticed because my glass was empty, and I turned to ask him for more. His space beside me was suddenly cold, as if he had never been there at all. At first, I assumed a work call. Mark was a financial director for a regional infrastructure firm. Emergencies clung to him like a second skin. I excused myself, weaving through guests toward the balcony. The air outside was sharp, biting. I scanned the street below, the parked cars, the blur of headlights. Nothing. My phone buzzed once. A message. I can't do this anymore. No explanation, no apology, just absence. I went back inside, my smile stitched on with muscle memory. I laughed too loudly, cut the cake with steady hands, accepted kisses and compliments. My mother watched me from across the room, her eyes sharp as needles. She had always been good at seeing fractures before they spread. "You're pale," she murmured when she hugged me. "Where's Mark?" "Taking a break," I said. "You know him?" She did. Too well, as it turned out. That night, after the guests left, and my sister helped stack plates in silence, I returned to the apartment Mark and I shared in Croix-Rousse. His wardrobe was half empty, his toiletries gone. He had planned this. Not the drama. Mark hated scenes. But the erasure. I sat on the edge of the bed until dawn, listening to the city wake. The boulangerie downstairs opened at 6. The smell of bread rose like a memory of safety. I felt hollowed out, not just by betrayal, but by recognition. Men leaving without explanation was a Keller family tradition. My grandmother had been abandoned in 1958, left with 2 children and a reputation ruined by whispers. My mother grew up learning that love was provisional, that security could vanish between dinner and morning. She married young, to a man who drank and disappeared for days, then raised me to expect stability as something earned through vigilance. Mark knew this. He knew everything. In the weeks that followed, fragments surfaced. A rented flat across the Saône. A woman from his office. Claire, younger, efficient, admired. An unborn child. The narrative assembled itself with cruel clarity. I did not confront him. Not yet. Instead, I visited my mother more often. We drank coffee in her small kitchen in Villeurbanne, the walls yellowed by time and cigarettes she no longer smoked. One afternoon, as rain smeared the windows, she told me something she had never said aloud. "Your father didn't just leave," she said. "He was pushed. By her own brother. A business deal gone wrong. Debts. Threats disguised as family concern. The men in our family," she explained, "had always believed control was love's highest form." Mark had married into that lineage willingly. I began to understand his fear, not of me, but of becoming trapped in a story he couldn't dominate. Revenge did not come as fury. It arrived as patience. I returned to work, a senior curator at the Musée des Confluences, surrounded by artifacts of civilizations undone by their own hierarchies. I listened. I observed. Mark's firm was bidding on a public-private partnership for a new transit line. Prestige, money, visibility. The kind of project that required trust. Trust, I learned, was fragile. Through a former colleague, I learned of irregularities Mark had signed off on. Nothing illegal on its own, but patterns that raised questions. Through Claire's social media, I learned of her ambitions, her need to be seen as indispensable. I arranged a meeting with her, under the guise of discussing an art sponsorship. She was nervous, eager. She talked too much. "You know," I said gently, "being tied to a scandal can derail a career before it starts." Her smile faltered. I never threatened. I didn't need to. The audit was announced in May. Quietly, then loudly. Mark's name appeared in reports, then headlines. Claire distanced herself, publicly and permanently. The firm suspended him. Investors fled. He came to see me then, thinner, unshaven, standing in the doorway like a man unsure of his right to enter. "Did you do this?" he asked. I looked at him, really looked, and felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness. Release. "I didn't save you," I said. "That's all." The resolution was neither dramatic nor redemptive. Mark moved away. The project collapsed. Our divorce finalized without contest. The child was born into a quieter life than he had imagined. On my 41st birthday, I stood alone on the balcony of my sister's apartment, the city glowing below. The Rhone flowed on, indifferent and eternal. I raised a glass to the night, not to loss, but to the end of a pattern. Some traditions are meant to be broken,